what we've set the table for in this year's Belmont is as cool of a Belmont as you can see without a Triple Crown on the line. You have the Derby winner against the Preakness winner. They are clearly the two best horses of this crop.
I mean, I would imagine if that was in my foot, I'd feel a little bit of pain if I was a big, strong horse.
And I wrote down a horse in here that I think is going to be a monster price.
The graveyard of favorites is the moniker given to Saratoga. We're talking about this pre-show. It is a very hard racetrack to ship in and win at. They were running a race in Baltimore. You could have gone in that.
Mike was saying speed is dangerous. The best place to be in the race is in front. Going on, everyone. Bearbets Podcast is back. June 3rd, Tuesday afternoon, as we are recording this, and pretty fun week on tap. Wouldn't you say, Jeff? We got Stanley Cup Finals starting on Wednesday, NBA Finals starting on Thursday. Again, the week is going to be capped with the Belmont Stakes on Fox. Post time for the Belmont around 7 p.m. on Saturday, but a whole bunch of racing throughout the day. Great stakes races all throughout the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It'll be capped by the third jewel of the Triple Crown. Speaking of Louisville, Jeff, last month, the first Saturday in May in Louisville was the Kentucky Derby. And prior to that race, we had our good friend Mike Joyce from FanDuel TV on to kind of break down the Derby and handicap it and give us some winners. And he was kind enough to do so. We did well. So we thought we'd bring him back for a return engagement leading up to the Belmont Stakes this weekend. Mike, what's going on, man?
Nothing. So pleased to be joining you from my padded cell. I need a better backdrop coming on this show. You guys have like football helmets and memorabilia. I just got like the white wall of my kitchen. I'll do better next time. But no, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no. When we talked last time, we were talking about the race leading up to the Derby, and that was I thought we had a hard time seeing someone other than journalism or sovereignty or one of those favorites really winning the race, and it ultimately played out that way. I was away, so we didn't really get a chance to talk prior to the Preakness. Where were you with the whole controversy, if you want to call it a controversy, not a controversy, with Belmont and the connections choosing to bypass the Preakness, go straight from the Derby to the Belmont? Was that a shock to you? Was that a big deal to you? I mean, how disappointing really was it?
It was disappointing. I'm of two minds here. Now, the racing purist in me would tell you that the Triple Crown is meant to be difficult. It's meant to be rare. And that's why it's such a crazy accomplishment when it happens. It doesn't need to be attempted every year. There's nothing written that says, hey, you need to do this, right? It's not on Bill Mott to run his horse in every leg of the Triple Crown. He doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. This isn't like a league or a tournament or something along the lines of a regular mainstream sport. Each race stands alone in its entirety as its own event. The Preakness was brilliant and a great horse race without sovereignty. It was one of the best races I've seen ever, really, as one of the best classic races we've seen. It was tremendous. So yes, you lose the mainstream audience a little bit without a Triple Crown attempt on the line. I get it. It's good for the sport. It's better for the sport. It's in every paper, not just the Daily Racing Form, when you have a Triple Crown on the line. That being said, what we've set the table for in this year's Belmont is as cool of a Belmont as you can see without a Triple Crown on the line. You have the Derby winner against the Preakness winner. They are clearly the two best horses of this crop at this moment in time. They're facing off against each other. Journalism, you can make the question, well, this is a lot. This is 3 races in 5 weeks. Is it going to take its toll on him? Or you could look at it as he must be doing really well to tick off Derby, Preakness, and Belmont. Sovereignty, he's on the sidelines rested. He's pointed for this spot. I think Sovereignty, after the Derby, I thought, hey, I don't blame Bill for making this move and not going to the Preakness. I can't remember who did the article, if it was David Grenig or one of those turf writers for the Daily Racing Form. But the day of the Preakness, Bill Mott worked Sovereignty. He breezed him, I think, 4 or 5 furlongs. I don't have the work in front of me. And he said, yeah, he really needed something to do today. Like, they were running a race in Baltimore. You could have gone in that. He clearly could have run in all 3. But Well, I still think I think it's going to be a great race. And I don't blame the connections. It's their horse. It's their prerogative. They can do whatever they want. Yeah. Would it have given us a little more attention? Yes. But the race we have on tap in the Belmont now, I think is excellent.
How different is this race from the first two? I know it's a different track than usual for the second year in a row, but so if you're handicapping the results from the first two races and looking at this race, how different is this one than the first two?
So you take out a league of horses that didn't belong, right? So all those horses in the Derby, every year there's 14 horses in the Derby that go on to do nothing with their careers. They just become kind of every other horse. They got to the Derby by virtue of the fact that they were, more precocious. They developed quicker. They got to that point of their talent cycle faster than everybody else, but really they're just kind of average or above average horses. They're all gone. There's no tomato cans in the Belmont. The Derby is the first time these horses ever go a mile and a quarter, and all these horses are trying to peak that first Saturday in May. So we kind of know what we have. It might be a little more in our heads than it is in reality, but at this point, going into the Belmont, we feel like we understand what this crop is. One of the things that makes the Derby great is that we go into the Derby not really knowing. That's what answers the question. Now, what do we have? We have an exceedingly talented Derby winner in Sovereignty. You have journalism running one of the most brilliant races ever in the Preakness, barreling through that hole. And we can talk about the non-DQ and all that in a moment with the ride from Umberto and then Flavian making things tight on him. We have Rodriguez, who we know is very talented, skipped the Preakness, was ruled out of the Derby because of a foot issue. But Bob Baffert has a great way of making these horses peak on their most important days, and he loves running at Saratoga. He has a great record there. We have Baeza, who the more I watch the Derby, I watched it like 2 or 3 times again last night, and you really need to get Baeza's trip, you really need to watch Churchill Downs' feed and not the NBC feed, because you lose it. Like out of the gate, Baeza is in front of Rodriguez or of Sovereignty because Sovereignty clips heels in the first 50 yards, which I didn't realize how bad that could be. It was really bad. And so he's back. And then by the time they're both making that move in the turn, if you're watching NBC, at some point Sovereignty gets in front of Baeza, and you don't see that anywhere on the NBC race, but you can see where it happens. And what you see on the pan view is Baeza and Sovereignty are it's almost like a little cat and mouse. They start moving together, and I don't want to say Baeza was the best horse in the Derby, but he encountered more trouble than his margin of defeat. Let's put it that way. He lost by a length and 3/4. I think he had more than a length and 3/4 in trouble in that trip. Does that mean he's better than Sovereignty? Well, Sovereignty had his own trip issues, and he was a little wider. He clipped heels at the beginning, so you can make all those calculations yourself. But it's coming into this to answer your question, the Saratoga race. Usually the Belmont's a mile and a half, which they never really run again unless they come back in the Brooklyn. It's just it's a distance that exists only in the Triple Crown anymore for all intents and purposes. The true heavyweight division in horse racing in America, dirt horses going a mile and a quarter. So the Derby, the Breeders' Cup Classic races like that, mile and a half is just wow, another quarter mile to throw on there. But since it's at Saratoga, it's a mile and a quarter. So in some respects, I kind of like it better because this is more of a true measure of who is the best horse. This is what they're going to run in the Classic. This is what they're going to run in the Whitney. This is what they're going to run in the Breeders' Cup. This is the distance, 10 furlongs on the dirt. The Graveyard of Favorites is the moniker given to Saratoga. We're talking about this pre-show. It is a very hard racetrack to ship in and win at. And it is a very hard racetrack on horses because it is a little deeper. Then it's much deeper than Churchill. I mean, Churchill they kind of bounce off of. It's a very different surface, a lot of clay, and it dries out really quickly too. It's much different than Pimlico, and it's not really. It's kind of like Belmont. New York horses do well in New York, but it's completely different than what we run on in California as well. So that plays into it, and it's just such a prestigious place to run and such a hard place to win that everybody points for it. So some of that is what comes into effect, but. This Belmont Stakes, I like the mile and a quarter Belmont. When they go back to a mile and a half at Belmont, I'm not going to complain about it, but I do think it's a better measure of these horses' true talent.
Yeah, you mentioned Baeza, and I'm glad you did because it is the first time since 2013 that we've got the top 3 finishers from the Derby all running against each other in the Belmont. And I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at what you were talking about with Baeza, because I'm having a lot of trouble with making a case for him in this race. I mean, it is a smaller field, so maybe that has something to do with it. But he's been beaten on the square out west by journalism. He was beaten again by both these guys in the Derby at a much longer price. At the price he's going to be on Saturday, which is probably going to be what, 3-1, 7-2, maybe somewhere around there. He's a terrible bet to win, isn't he?
It is definitely a tote board check. The morning line has him at 4-1. If you're going to give me 4-1 on him, I'll take it. Journalism and sovereignty are going to siphon a lot of the money in the win pool. They are the names. It's the Preakness winner. It's the Derby winner. Belmont, you still get some dodo money. You get the casual fan who shows up once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, that are going to be betting, names and faces and what they know and what they've read. That money's going to go to those 2 horses. So if you can get a 4-1 on a Baeza, I think that's pretty fair. But I'm with you. I don't know that you're going to get that. To me, the 2 horses to bet, and they're going to be tote board checks, are Baeza and Rodriguez. I have nothing bad to say about Sovereignty. He made me some money on Derby Day. I love him. I think he's a great horse. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing bad to say about Journalism. He's wonderful. He's a fantastic animal. He might prove to be the best 3-year-old of this crop. And he actually has some more talents than Sovereignty does. I think Sovereignty might be a better mile and a quarter horse, but Journalism, he can make moves. You can turn him off, turn him on. You can drive him like a car. It's a very rare talent. Baeza, however, I just don't know that we've gotten, if you look at the way his race, he has progressed in each and every start. I don't know that we've gotten to the bottom of his talent. It's very tempting. We know, look, he's from this fantastic line that gave us the Derby winner 2 years ago in Mage, and then the Belmont winner last year in Dornick. I don't see him being any less good than either of those 2 horses. He might be the best of those 3 when all is said and done. And he's been, working through the bridle in California. He is a horse. And when John Sheriff's, he's a very quirky trainer. He's a very quirky guy. But horse trainers are like that, right? They're everyone thinks they want to see how the sausage is made, but then when they go behind the scenes, how the sausage is made, like, wow, that's really
doing that.
Yeah. But John Sheriff's he's kind of like a horse whisperer. Like he's very quirky, but he is very good. And when he has a good horse and this kind of a situation, he's dangerous. And I just think that Baeza, I feel like I could trust Baeza to take another step forward. I think we saw all that Sovereignty had to give in the Derby. I think we saw all that Journalism had to give in the Derby and the Preakness. I don't know that we saw everything that Baeza had to give. Now, it's a tote board check, and I would wait until at least the post parade. At that point, you're not going to get a lot of movement in the odds to see what you're going to get on Baeza. But it's either him or Rodriguez. And Rodriguez, it's real simple, man. If he gets the lead, I don't know who goes with him. And if he's out there on his own, good luck. We've seen Bob Baffert. Everyone loves to talk about Bob Baffert. He's got he's like this controversial trainer. He's done the same thing for 40 years. He gets a lot of horses. He trains them all to be fast, and he wants them all on the lead. Period. Amen. It's the best place to be in a race is in the front. It doesn't matter if it's a car, a dog, or a horse. If you're in front, you're in the best position. And Rodriguez might have that kind of talent. We haven't seen it. We saw it in the Wood. We haven't seen it completely uncorked, but I think you're going to get a very good version of him come down.
And we think his foot's okay. When obviously he had a scratch out of the Derby with the foot issue.
It's like I try to liken it to in the social media age and in the information age, we are privy to so much information that we just never had before. I've never cared about feet. If they're in the race, I assume they're good. I honestly, I don't. I mean, Cigar won 16 races in a row with quarter, right? I mean, who else? Shared Belief. Shared Belief not only was crooked, the horse had bad feet. And he might have been, he's the only horse other than Arrogate to run down California Chrome from behind. He started his career like Flightline. He was like 6 for 6, and no one even warmed him up. So I just don't care about feet. The less I know about feet, the better. People have and in this day and age, the vets are they go over these horses with such a fine tooth comb. Mm-hmm. If these horses have a pimple, they scratch them. So I ain't worried about feet.
It sounds like you like the top 4 horses to probably be at the top there. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Which one of those can you sneak in there to get on the board?
The Peter Pan winner, Hill Road, is the one that I think has the most. He's the one horse for Chad Brown. I think he has the most potential. He was a very talented horse in Ireland. They had him on the turf. And the thing that I like about him is that a lot of times you'll get horses from Ireland or overseas or Great Britain or France, and they come here because they can't run on Lasix overseas. So they come to the US so they can run on Lasix and then they can see where they go. We basically don't have Lasix in stakes racing anymore for all intents and purposes. And it's an anti-bleeder medication. I don't want to go too far into it.
I'm saying, Mike, you're bringing back great memories of Go and Go in 1990 when it went in the Belmont coming in from Ireland. That was a nice mutual for you, boy.
So, so Hill Road, he's an Irish horse. He's been here for a while. He runs third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in his first try ever on dirt. First start of the year, Tampa Bay Derby. He was third, kind of a nondescript third, beaten 6 1/4. And then at that point, Chad Brown, okay, he knows what he has in the barn. We're talking the Tampa Bay Derby's first week of March. At that point, all these trainers, they know what they have and who's going where. And he says, you know what, we're going to the Peter Pan. And the only reason you skip all these Triple Crown preps and the Triple Crown races to go to the Peter Pan is because you're prepping for the Belmont. So this is a deliberate road for Hill Road to get there. So he has the most potential to spring an upset. He's 10-1 on the inside. You get Irad riding at Saratoga, where he's won 8 gajillion races, and he's won, riding title after riding title after riding title. So I just think that of the long shots in there, Hill Road makes the most sense. And he's another one. He's kind of like Baeza. We really don't know where the ceiling is. This will be his third start as a 3-year-old. He's still developing. I think he's pretty good. And he went 1 1/8 in that Peter Pan, so he's only stretching out another quarter mile.
You mentioned Chad Brown and Hill Road. We were talking about the Belmont. It's a short field, and we've kind of exhausted the contenders here. But Chancer McPatrick was a horse that broke his maiden at Saratoga last year, won his second start at Saratoga in a sprint distance. I think people need to understand that there are a bunch of great races here on Friday, on Saturday. I think there's 7 grade ones on Saturday, one of which is the Woody Stevens sprint race that Chancer McPatrick is scheduled to run. Chad Brown has Ways and Means, a really nice filly who's going to be a short price as well. Some of these other races, undercard stakes races, are certainly not to be ignored as well.
Right. We also should probably not even call it undercard because they're all ones. It's nuts. Speaking about that Woody Stevens, not only you bring up Chancer McPatrick, he was second in voting for the champion 2-year-old Eclipse, or maybe third, but he was one of the 3 finalists for champion 2-year-old last year. The actual champion, Citizen Bull, is running in the Woody Stevens. He's not running in the Belmont Stakes. So that's how good that race is. I shouldn't say this because you're going to think less of me for it. I had a hefty future wager in the Derby on Patch Adams. I think he's going to turn out to be a sprinter. He's also
going to be a damn good sprinter. That race in the slop at Churchill, if he runs back, if we get moisture,
Right. But you think I had a future wager on him at like 28-1 to win Derby. And he's clearly not a 1 1/4 horse. I'm like, I might have been just a little off there. And then one of the best races, it could be a standalone race. It could be like the Derby. It could be like the Belmont. It could be like that. And it used to be until recent years, is the Metropolitan Handicap, affectionately known as the Met Mile. It's actually the race that I think it doesn't get ruined, but loses the most by going to Saratoga, because instead of being that awesome 1-turn mile at Belmont, it's now this turn and a half, oblong thing at Saratoga that is just the only other track I know that has a chute that goes into a 90-degree turn like that is Ellis Park. But the field is outstanding. You have Fierceness, White Abario, drawn in 1-2, Raging Torrent in there. It's only 5 horses, just a touch, but 4 of them are legit grade 1 horses. And Fierceness right now, I think after what we saw in the Ali Sheba, you have to, knowing Todd Pletcher and the Rapoli stable and the Coolmore guys who ran the story, if Fierceness does anything other than a campaign that has multiple grade 1s, a Breeders' Cup Classic victory, and he's crowned Horse of the Year, if he does anything less than that, they're going to be disappointed. That's the kind of talent this horse has. And White Abario, who's earned $7 million in his career with 10 wins, and he's just sensationally talented and dangerous. I mean, they're going to be out of the gate right next to each other like this, and they're going to be like that the entire way around.
It seems like there could be some weather on Saturdays. We saw in the last race in the Preakness. How does that affect any of these horses?
I don't know that it affects him at all. I mean, the 3 horses coming out of the Derby and the Belmont, they all clearly handled the slop there. I mean, it was a rainy track. The turf racing it's going to affect more than anything. So like in the Manhattan, right? So it depends on how soft it comes up. One thing that American racing is lacking. I don't know if you guys ever watch Australian racing. Bear, I know there's been a night or two you've had.
I actually had been to Australian racing when I was overseas a couple of years ago.
Where'd you go?
We were at Randwick.
Royal Randwick. That's my favorite. I've been there twice for the championships. Fantastic racetrack. So one of the things they have in Australia, and I don't know why we can't get this in the US, right? We can get points of call for every racetrack in the country. We need a pentrameter. And what a pentrameter is this device that they stick into the turf course, and it gives you like a numerical reading on how much moisture and how much give is in the turf course. So we just go from like good to soft to yielding or whatever we want to call it, or fast. They actually have, it's a good 7. It's a soft 9. It's a firm 2. So there's actually like,
it's like a stip meter on the greens.
Yeah, like come on, like what are we doing here? We can put a man on the moon. We can't get a pentrameter at Saratoga. But the turf racing, it will affect it. I would imagine it's supposed to rain Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't think you'll get a yielding turf course. If you do, you won't get a soft. You might get yielding. It's not going to be any better than good, though. Good is about as good as you're going to get. It won't be firm. There's a 0% chance you'll have a firm turf course. There's a slight chance you'll have a good turf course. There's a likely chance you'll have yielding. I doubt it. They never go soft. Soft is like the most moisture. You won't see a soft turf course in New York, but it'll have some cut to the turf for sure.
Well, I guess sitting here on Tuesday afternoon, sounds like you're kind of leading towards maybe pulling the upset trigger there with either Baeza or Rodriguez.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I haven't mapped out pick 5s, pick 6.
Neither have I. It's too early for that, and not knowing the full weather, it's kind of hard to do. Like I could sit here on Tuesday and be like, we love Zulu Kingdom and the Pine Ridge, and then it comes up super soft and doesn't like who the hell knows.
All right. Well, since you brought up that race, I gotta throw it out there. I got a horse in that race. Yeah. So
I wrote some notes down for my call after the podcast with our producers, and I wrote down a horse in here that I think is going to be a monster price. So let's see if you got something here. See where we landed on.
I own horses with CJ thoroughbreds.
You do? I didn't know CJ.
Yeah. So Corey Johnson, CJ's dad. So CJ's the young guy. Corey Johnson got his start in horse racing working at Arlington Park in the early 80s when my dad owned and was president of Arlington. So he got to start working for my dad. My brother Eugene, who's in the business in Wyoming, he got his start working for my dad, but he also started working for Corey when Corey was at Lone Star Park back when they had the Breeders' Cup in 2004. So our families go way back.
Okay.
So my brothers and I, so I've got a bunch of brothers. My brothers and I all kind of buy in on the share. So we've been in on CJ's thoroughbreds. He does Phillies packages, and we own some Colts and Geldings too for the last 3 years. But we have a really nice colt named Tom's Magic. He's 15-1 in the Panayotovich Ridge. He was awesome down at Fairgrounds on that turf course. He won the Black Gold. Then we sent him to the Transylvania at Keeneland. Had some trouble in the trip. Was a little outmatched, but he was actually supposed to go in the Penn Mile on Friday of last week, but they canceled all the graded stakes at Penn National and postponed him a month. I thought they were going to postpone him a day. Like a month? What are we doing?
My horse is ready to run now.
Yeah, so CJ's like, screw it. Let's go to Saratoga. I'm like, I'm in. I'm not going to make the trip, but my wife will be there, so she'll jump in the winner's circle.
Beautiful. No, because I did not know you knew CJ. Then it's a small world. I was looking at Noble Professor, who is cross-entered in another race, but he just missed versus Zulu Kingdom at Saratoga. He wasn't embarrassed in the juvenile turf at all. It's his second race off of a long leg. Like he could be a monster price, and maybe he can't pull the upset over Zulu Kingdom or beat your horse, but it's a horse I think that could hit the board at a huge price.
Well, and Pletcher uses races to prep for races, right? I mean, he's a maiden in there, but he's not going to throw him in this race just for fun, right? And it's Vinny Viola, it's the St. Elias stable. Yep. So they must think they have the goods to go in a spot like this. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's an you got okay race. You got Mibago in there, and Flying Mohawk's back on a surface he should be. Zulu Kingdom, the obvious favorite in there. He's awesome, but he doesn't have to win. I mean, it's tough to beat Chad Brown on the grass, but he's going to be, stuck on the inside. He's a fast horse. Flavian, if he gets shuffled a little bit, he might be further back than he needs. I think that race, it's not as tough as it looks at first glance.
All right, so we kind of got sidetracked there for a minute. So we were thinking maybe you going Baeza probably in the big one on Saturday.
Yeah, so Baez is my top pick. I'm not going to bet sovereignty or journalism to win. If I'm betting a horse to win, it's either going to be Baeza or Rodriguez. For the purposes of right now, I'm going to say it's Baeza because I like him better as a horse. Rodriguez is purely a pace play because I think he gets the lead, and if he does so comfortably, he's going to be tough to catch. If I'm playing through that race, I'm not going to, if I have prices before and after that race, I'm not going to leave journalism and sovereignty out. I would be surprised if it wasn't one of those four. I'd throw Chad Brown's rail horse in there, Hill Road, if you wanted to throw another one in. But outside of that, I know it's not a huge field, and I just gave you like 5 of them, but that's kind of how I see it unfolding.
The worst thing you want to do is be sitting there with the monster ticket and not have an obvious horse. As spoken from someone who in 2019 did not use Matoli in the first leg of the late pick 5, which was topped off by Country House, of course, at 50-1. So kind of cost myself some money there. We did back it up with a nice pick 4 though, which was good. And so before we start talking about the Manhattan and send all of our listeners into even more of a tizzy, I'm going to let you go. We can offline the Manhattan at another time. Mike, appreciate you joining us again, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. This is awesome.
Fun chat again with Mike Joyce, and if you wanted to hear our thoughts on the Manhattan, maybe you'll get them at some. You'll definitely get them from me at some point Saturday afternoon on Fox prior to the race. I'm sure Mike will have his thoughts as well. But time now for the gambling group chat. Sammy P and Will Hill joining Jeff and I. And I think the place to start, obviously, you're sitting here Tuesday afternoon, is the big one in Miami tonight. Sandy Alcantara taking on the 10 and 50 Rockies, right?
I'm at a swim meet last night, just checking my phone, but every 17 minutes to see the update of that score. And lo and behold, I was bummed out. I got 9 more wins to work with, guys. In the under 9.5. Thank you, Marlins, for the 3 and 16 runs in scoring position night for you guys. I appreciate that.
Rockies did the same thing last month, though. Don't worry, they beat the Giants in the first or the second game of the month, and then wound up losing a bunch in a row. So have no worry. I think we're still going to be okay.
I hope so. I made a hefty wager on that one.
Ooh, hefty.
Yeah.
How many zeros?
It's not bare for the French Open, but I mean it's for my appetite, it's a little more than I normally wager on something like this.
All right, so 2 and 7, 8.47 ERA for old Sandy Alcantara. Kind of a disappointing year, but
and a minus 190 favorite somehow.
Crazy. Speaking of favorites, the favorite Saturday, Belmont Stakes up at Saratoga, will be on Fox all afternoon. Four great stakes races, capped by the Belmont around 7:04, I think, is the post time right now. Journalism, the slight morning line favorite 8-5. Derby winner Sovereignty 2-1. The rubber match. Sammy, we'll start with you. You got any interest here on the race?
Oh yeah, I'll play the 2 Sovereignty and hope that it floats up. Give me more than 2-1. That'd be great. I wasn't expecting anything north of 2, but it looks like we have a lot of hype, obviously, for Journalism, who just ran the race of a lifetime at the Preakness. Against a pretty weak field, by the way. Needed that run and that trip to get home. And now Baeza, who is a scratch horse in the Belmont, is the sexiest horse in this race. So I'm going to keep Baeza out. I'm looking for something to pair with the 2, Bear. That's where I'm at in life.
I think Rodriguez might be a horse to look at, or maybe Hill Road as well. Will, you should come up to Saratoga. It's only like 2.5 hours, if that.
it's not a bad idea. I do think I have some other work obligations. This is such a late invitation. It feels like almost a non-invitation. It's like, getting an invite to a wedding like a couple days before.
Oh, shut! You can't make it. Oh, well, next year. Come on up next year.
Exactly. What? Talk me out of Crudo. Well, maybe don't talk me out of it because I already bet it. But 15, 20 to 1 range, just won Sir Barton coming off a couple wins. I know people, think this horse has some upside. Is this a donation or is this a live?
No, but Bobby Flay, part of the ownership group of that horse. No, not at all. And what Mike Joyce and Jeff and I were just talking about in the race, it's not a terrible bet at all because maybe Rodriguez isn't fully healed. Maybe he doesn't catch a flyer, but Crudo is going to be a horse with Todd Pletcher, who always does well in New York. This horse is going to be on the lead, and look no further than last year in this race up at Saratoga. Dornick was a horse that really didn't have great form coming in, and he wound up getting to the front and never really looked back. Look at the Preakness a couple of weeks ago with Gosker, a long shot who got to the front, and it took a super, I don't want to say human, but an unbelievable effort by journalism to get by him. And Mike was saying, speed is dangerous. The best place to be in the race is in front. Have people, here's the target on my back. Come get me if you can. So no, I'm not opposed to Crudo at 15, 20 to 1 at all.
Yeah, there's still one out there at one of the sites we frequent at 20 to 1. I'll pass you along a note after we get done here, but 20 to 1 is a play.
Please do. Is there an ace up your sleeve on that, or you look the old, or is it the old Chuck Woolery? You'll be back in 2+2.
If you're a junkie for action, you'll be able to figure it out.
Perfect. We like it. Jeff, did we get a pick out of you, Jeff, on the with Mike, or no? You just kind of sat and absorbed all the information and your pay grade that we were talking about.
When you guys went to races on Friday, I think it was Friday, maybe it was Thursday. I just started thinking about the college football season. So I'll admit we're out of my depth a little bit there. I did hear Mike say he's wagering on like 5 horses though. So I'm going to listen back and take the 5 he's going to wager on.
Well, that's the beauty of the pari-mutuel way of betting and all of the different ways you can bet the Belmont. Mike actually mentioned this back when we did the Derby pod, was people say, oh, it's too hard to bet, too hard to figure out. It's actually not. You pick a horse. If they win, you win. If you don't win, you don't.
Correct.
You pick a horse and you pick them to show. If they finish 1, 2, 3, you win. But if you when you get to the sicko type level like me, you're starting to bet pick 4s, pick 5s, and in a race at the end of the pick 5, pick 4 sequence, you want to really be alive to a bunch of different horses to figure out your payout. So you don't want to be sitting there and on the last leg of a multi-race bet, like I'm going to have, and hopefully I'll give out some on the air on Saturday, and I'll try and do my best on social media throughout the day on Saturday and throughout the week as well. You want to build a ticket maybe with a single or using only 2 horses in a race early on, and then kind of build it in a bigger race where there are more likely winners and go deeper in those races. So that's kind of what Mike was getting at. But again, to put anybody on the spot, I think on Tuesday for a winner is a little unfair, especially being that you brought up as well with the weather. But it's a great weekend of racing, great week of racing. Hopefully the weather will cooperate and we'll have a nice day on Saturday. All right, until next week, we'll probably have to go same time, same place next week with the Thursday U.S. Open start, right? So everybody have a great week with the NBA and NHL getting underway, and then capped, of course. Hopefully I'll give you guys some winners at the track on Saturday.
All right, back from Gambling Group Chat. A little shorter today, Bears. We covering the Belmont, a good portion there, and you have a best bet that's a revolving around this. You and Mike Joyce might be on sort of separate sides here.
Yeah, we are. Michael McCarthy is running journalism. Like what Mike was saying about Rodriguez. He said, I'm not worried about his feet. If they're running him, his feet are okay. If journalism is running, that means he bounced out of the Preakness just fine, and he's ready to roll. I love journalism in this race. Plus 160, it's 8-5 in the morning line. So plus 162, if you can get some fixed odds on him right now, you can do that as well. I just think the the 1.25 here at Saratoga with the way the pace sets up in this race. It reminds me a little bit more of the Preakness where there wasn't a complete free for all up front. Journalism was able to settle in just behind, and of course he did have a bit of a rough trip, and he was fortunate enough to get up over Gosker, who was loose in the lead. But I do think again he gets the jump on Sovereignty in this race, and I do like Journalism to become the first horse since Native Dancer in 1955, by the way, to finish second in the Derby, and then wind up winning the Preakness and the Belmont. So give me Journalism to win the Belmont as my best bet.
I like it. You asked me when we got on game group chat, like, what was I thinking about when you and Mike were going off on horses? I did actually look up what a quarter crack is in a horse's hoof. So
yeah,
I have pictures of
Appears
that
painful,
now, so,
doesn't it?
I mean, I would imagine if that was in my foot, I'd feel a little bit of pain if I was a big, strong horse like these guys are. So I get why. But Mike said it didn't matter. So I was like, oh, so I want to look it up and see what it was about.
Just like throw some glue and glue it back together.
Yeah, why not? It's pretty easy. All right, my best bet.
Which is what they do, by the way. I'm not just saying that.
Oh, I believe you. I mean, how else are you going to fix it? You're not going to do surgery for that, I don't think. All right, my best bet, Bear, is in the association. I like Chet Holmgren to average 10 rebounds or more in this series. It's plus 150. When you look at the Pacers, their leading rebounders are Pascal Siakam, who numbers went down throughout last series, and Halliburton and Neesmith. And then, they get a center here, Turner, with 5. You look at what Chet did against the Nuggets, who mimic sort of the inside presence that you can see with Indiana. He had 6, 11, 16, 13, 8, 11, and 11. I just think that the paint will be controlled by the Thunder. I think Chet Holmgren every game, a points rebounds over Bear would be appropriate as well. I think that 5 games, Chet will average 10 rebounds or more, and I get plus 150 on it, so I'll take it.
There's the one concern there, maybe the number of threes Indiana take. Do you think we're going to get a lot more longer rebounds, and that might limit some of them?
Maybe, but he's going to probably sack. I would imagine who's he going to guard? Who's he going to turn? I mean, if him and Hartson are at the same time, who's he going to guard? I don't know. It's like Toppin. I mean, Toppin just stands in the corner. He could just run in. I just don't really think like it's going to be. I agree that with the long rebounds could hurt, but Holmgren's going to stand in the middle there and just sort of be a defender and get the ball. Offensive rebounds as well will be big. So this series just feels like. Again, India's got to win game 1, in my opinion, to make this a series, Bear. And I think we all agree it's not going to happen. Maybe the Thunder start slow, but they're also, by the way, too young of a team to know any better. Like, I don't think that they're really going to look at this as this long layoff and think anything other than we get to play basketball game 1. And it's not going to bother them much at all. So I think we're all in agreement here with Thunder. So are you doing, by the way, what, a Thunder to win the Scheffler U.S. Open?
I might have to.
Chiefs, Bills.
No, I don't want to get too far into the future
Oregon?
with the NFL. See, if I do college, that means I'm going to have to like leave the state, and it's interesting because in Connecticut I can't bet college futures here in Connecticut on the league laps.
Correct. Yeah.
So I could drive to Massachusetts or New York and fire in a bunch, but yeah, I think for the immediate term, maybe we'll do a little Thunder with a couple of the women's Euro team, Spain and England.
Okay.
Maybe you take Scotty, Rory, Bryson. Maybe find someone else. Maybe someone else in the U.S. Open and maybe a little Tadej Pogacar. And to win the Tour de France, who's a significant favorite in that race. See, but I'll be the only person in the world with a cross-sport parlay with the Tour de France and women's heroes.
Probably, you would be that one. I'd imagine. Can we also say, like, can we stop like the taxing on sports wagering, please? Can we? Maybe not the time to do this full discussion, Bear, but like, just enough, yes, people.
Agreed.
Okay, let's admit that.
By the way, Liberty going to repeat in the WNBA? Because I know
they look good, buddy.
Yeah, because Will was kind of saying the Fever. I'm not feeling.
I'm not the Fever
getting hurt, and
they have not. I guess when you have a new offense and new pieces, it does take time, and that's fair to say. But I thought they would start faster offensively, especially the way they looked in a couple of preseason games. And with Clark being out, I mean, the first month of the season essentially they haven't gelled together. They also, I'll give you one thing. I probably wager too much on the WNBA.
No, you don't. If you're making money and you're beating it, then you're not wagering too much on it.
The Fever allow the opposing center to score a ton of points. Go look at their games, whether it's Jones on whether it's Irfan, Tina Charles, anyone they play. They allow the center a ton of points. It just feels like a bad spot to be in against Jones, like to not be able to defend.
Who was the MVP of the finals last year?
Yeah, so I think that's a big Fever problem, and they just, outside of Boston, they don't really have an interior defender who you really trust. They're long with Howard and Boston, but I just don't really know if they're good enough to win a championship this season. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I have a couple of futures wagers. Like I got Clark MVP. I got Sky under season win total, which I think I gave out on foxsports.com. You're going to find our stuff there. But Fever, I'm off them to win a championship as of now.
And that's the WNBA Minute, brought to you by Geoff Schwartz.
There you go.
Here's my bad voiceover announcer voice as well. But we'll talk plenty about that as the year goes on, and ways to bet the WNBA and whatever else tickles our fancy as a way to make money. So thanks to Mike Joyce again for joining us. Maybe I'll have to have him on around Breeders' Cup time or something to kick around some more ponies. Sammy and Will, as always, good to break their chops and get their thoughts as well. Geoff, I hope you have a great week, a great weekend. Appreciate everybody out there for listening, and make sure you download, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, wherever else. Check us out on that YouTube channel. And remember, most importantly, the less you bet, the more you lose when you win.